So today we're going to be having a look at the Freerider Sierra carrier. This is their new buckle. We've previously done stretchy wraps, but this is their new buckle carrier. So we're going to have a look at it and see how it works. First thing to note is the waist belt adjusts from one end. So I'm going to make that a bit longer for me. All the straps have these little elasticy bits on it. That's to help tidy away any excess strap at the end. You can also tidy it away with a little bit of elastic at the end. All the buckles also have this sort of hair tie on it, and what that's for is when you buckle your buckle shut, pop that over, and it means that if the buckle were to snap for any reason, it's going to catch on that hair tie. Most buckle carriers have that. So on the inside, let me turn it around so you can see, you have this panel here. This is your infant insert. Now it's got a little magnetic snap there, and what that's for is just to hold it out the way when you're not using it. If you're going to use it, which we are, you've got some little studs up here, some little snaps, yeah, and they're hidden underneath a bit of fabric, so they're tucked out the way when you're done. So we'll just snap them in. And for the main panel, you can see it's really quite wide just now, but at the front, down in the bottom, you'll see there's some hidden ladder clips. So if you slide that all the way along and in, that's going to make this seat as narrow as it can be. So it's at its narrowest for a newborn, and we're using the newborn insert anyway. It just means that if their feet come out, there's less chance of them standing in the carrier. So to put a buckle carrier on, especially for a newborn, you want to start as high up your body as is comfortable for you. For women, I generally say start under the bust, and for men, I would say start at least at your natural waist, if not higher. Let me just tighten this up a little bit. You want it tight enough that you can fit 4 fingers in, but to make a fist is really, really hard, so I probably want to tighten mine just a little bit more. There we go. So you can see as I put it on, I'm twisting and turning it. That's because that's how I prefer to put it on. Now, what I would say about this is the instructions are a bit confusing. What the instructions show is that you put the carrier on and then you stuff your baby into the carrier. It's not really how I would teach it, so I'm going to show you how I would put the carrier on, because I think it's a safer way to do it. So let me just unbuckle this here. It's been set up for a back carry before this. Right. Let me get my newborn. So this is my newborn doll. He's very, very floppy. So I'm going to sit him on my chest. So for safety, we always want the baby in the hard part of our chest. And I've got my baby's hands up. So imagine you're holding your tiny newborn in your arms. He's going to sit in this little pocket seat here that we just made. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift the carrier up in between his legs. Now because this is a doll, the legs have opened up quite wide. But I had a newborn baby in this the other day and she tucked her legs in. I'm now going to take one strap, put it over my shoulder. I'm still got my hand on my baby's back. I'm going to swap my hand on my baby's back, and the buckle is up here by my hand. I'm going to grab the strap from down my back, pull down to the ground, give myself some extra space, bring it round, and then pull it backwards. And then I'm going to do the same on the other side. Now, what I'm doing now is a pelvic tuck, and that's where you scoop your baby's bum in towards you, and it makes them sit on the back of their bum rather than on their crotch. Now the thing to note about this carrier is that this is what the instructions tell you to do. It tells you to have it mid-ear. I would say that's unsafe, and so I would recommend that babies that are in this position in this carrier don't go in. They're too small. What you could try is you could try folding this in and see if that gives a better fit. But again, this doll is just too small for this carrier. Both the nose and mouth are below the top of the carrier. Where we would find ideal for a baby in a carrier, let me just help me get my baby out, is to have the fabric at the back of the neck like this. Okay, that's where we want the fabric. If the baby is this low down in the carrier, and this is, I can't get the waist belt any higher because it's under my bust. The only way for me to get this higher would be to actually put it on top of my breast tissue, and that's going to be too painful. this doll is just too small for this carrier. Okay, sometimes that happens. This is the smallest doll I have. What I'll do is I will loosen everything, and I'll show you how the instructions tell you to pop the carrier on. Let me get this as loose as I can get it. And I'll lift my baby out, and I'll put in a slightly bigger doll. So this doll is my 3 to 6 month doll. So you can see he's quite a bit bigger. It's less floppy. But I've still got my newborn insert in. So the instructions tell you to put the carrier on and then to reach your hand up in and through and pass your baby's legs in. Now the reason that I don't teach this way is you have to put your baby really high up on your shoulder, and you also have to do a lot of manoeuvring around your baby, and then sort of shake them back into the seat. I've now also got loads and loads of slack that I need to take out my carrier. This just isn't the way I would teach it. So if you're going to use a carrier, I would always recommend holding your baby first and then lifting your baby up and in. Now for me, a couple of adjustments. Which one did I put on first? So I'm going to tighten this carrier back up, but you can see this 3 to 6 month doll is now in a much better position. Fabric's up at the back of the neck, and just tighten this up. But I would say they're not supported knee to knee. My doll's just supported across its bottom. So it would be ideal for these knees to be supported as well. If, however, I was to take my baby out with a newborn insert, so all I'm doing just now is reaching into the carrier and I'm unpopping. Give me 1 second while I do that. There we go. Pop, unpop. So you probably heard that. Now as I put my 3 to 6 month doll back in, there's slightly more knee to knee here because it's still in the smallest setting we put it on. But you can see again, the top of the carrier is completely obscuring my baby's airway. So I do find for my tastes this panel is too high. However, if your child is really long in the torso, this might be a good carrier because it might allow you to keep the airway clear. But this isn't a secure airway. You can see there's very little airflow coming in the side here, and there's no airflow coming in the top. So from safety, we would always seek it to be in your hard part of your chest and make sure there's no obstruction to the face and neck, the airway. So if that's the case and you can't secure the airway, we would recommend your baby doesn't go in the carrier. So you could put this baby back in the newborn insert and have them up and have their head clear. That's absolutely fine, but their seat won't be knee to knee, which is less comfy. Depends again on the size of your baby. Once your baby's bigger though, this might be a carrier that you would prefer. So let me just show you my big boy doll. So this is my 1-year-old, and you can see because I pull him about by his clothes, he's unpopped at the bottom. But this terrifying beast is my 1-year-old doll. So what we'll do is we'll pop him in the carrier next. So if I was to put him in with the cross straps, you can already see here that I'm going to need to widen my seat. So let's put my seat on the widest it'll go. So all I've done is went back into that waist belt and pulled that wide. And what I'll do is I will show you what this looks like for a back carry. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up my buckles first. So that's all set up. Now, in the instructions, you can use this in this position for a front carry as well. But in the instructions, it will confirm that you will need to do up this chest pass first because it is a little bit fiddly. So you can't really do that when they're already on your front. You can't do that up at the back, and you can't undo it at the back easily. So you're always going to be using we call it the t-shirt hack. Let me just get my doll because I'm going to put that on in a minute. Right, so I'm going to pop my baby on. I'm going to lift his arms up. Now again, I would also say that for back carrying, you're going to want to speak to a consultant if you can. And the reason for that is they'll be able to show you the best way to back carry for you. The instructions for back carrying on this have a risk of falling. So I would look to make sure that even if you don't see a consultant, that you do look at other videos than the Freerider instructions to learn how to back carry in a way that reduces the risk of falling. So you can see here I've got my baby in the carrier. He's very secure. I'm holding on to the straps already. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to twist him around my body and put my elbow through that gap. So now that I've got my baby in, I'm going to reach behind and I'm going to pull forward on both straps. And I'm going to do it with my chest clip. The chest clip, like I say, it's a little fiddly. It's not a buckle, it's a... Imagine a ring sling, if any of you have seen a ring sling. Oh. Pop this through. So like I say, it is a little bit fiddly, but you might prefer it aesthetically. Just go in, please. This is also on sliders here, so you can slide it up and down your chest as needed. So that's my baby on my back. That bit is flapped up, but you can stick it down with, there's a little elastics to pop it down. You can see that on my back, my doll does fit okay. His head is clear and his legs are knee to knee. This is my 1-year-old doll. So it will do back, front inward and front outward. Again, I would say be really mindful of the panel height as it's very high. And I've tried now with my newborn, my 3 to 6 and my 1-year-old doll, and I can only get my airway and seat fitting correctly on my 1-year-old doll. I put a 5-month-old real baby in this the other day, and again she had to be in the newborn insert and was only just clearing the top of the panel at 5 months. So with this, I would be mindful that the instructions show that it's safe to have the carrier here, but if I was to put a scarf across your face here, you probably wouldn't find it comfortable breathing. And so I would say to be mindful that babies can't control their own airway and that we need to do that for them. So while it's a very pretty carrier, it feels nice. The fabric is nice and soft, it's like wrap fabric. And it has some very nice features. The buckles disappear into the carrier, which is lovely. It means that you get a more aesthetically pleasing, sort of sleeker look on the outside. The adjuster's nicely hidden down the front, so you can't really see it, which again gives the nice look. But for me, I struggle to get a good fit in this carrier with any of my dolls. I also find it quite hard to loosen this buckle because it's quite high up. So it is something that you might find that you struggle with putting on and off, and you might struggle to get a good fit on your baby. So before you go ahead and buy one of these, because they are, I think, 188, 190 pounds, something like that. So before you invest in one of these, it would be worthwhile to get in touch with a sling library and just see if it's the carrier for you. Because again, it is the carrier for a lot of people. Some people are going to love this. But what I don't want people doing is spend £188 only to find that they can't get a safe fit for their baby. So definitely come and see us. And if we've got one in stock at the time, we'll be able to let you have a play with it. If not, we can find somebody who does. Okay, so the Freerider Sierra, very pretty and soft, but maybe the panel's a bit tall for every baby. So worthwhile double checking before you invest.